Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Saturday, June 7th, the evening, not the usual time that I do a show. I have picked up some new equipment, and while I have a full studio up in my office, my home office, I also want to have a nice setup for the road. So instead of just testing it and not doing a show, may as well do a show. So let's talk a little bit. I know that this is a tape show, not maybe your favorite situation. You like the interplay. I do too, but I'm not expecting anybody to be on at 7:15 as I'm recording this on a Saturday evening, but lots going on here at Buckeye Huddle. Be sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel before the Texas game. Help us get there. Don't let UT win. Don't let those T-sippers win. Subscribe to the channel. Check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. Tom, Tony, myself covering the team. Jeremy Birmingham, Mark Gibler covering recruiting. Our team of X's and O's guys, I just had lunch with Michael Pettit, but Ross Fulton, Devin Ratcliffe, Justin Whitlatch, all of them are going to start cranking out some more material here in the coming months as we get to the start of the season. So now that we kind of got that housekeeping out of the way, having to find the microphone to see where it is, I'm trying a lot of new things out to provide the best possible situation. I don't know if I like where the light is right now. Honestly, I should have two lights to try and even it out. You definitely see it in the glasses. I really should just take the glasses off, and I will, because I'm not reading any questions, so I don't have to really be able to see anything other than the start and the stop button. So there you go. Me without glasses. What is going on today? I think the first bit of news is the announcement of Vero Beach offensive lineman Champ Smith to UCLA. Am I surprised as of today, as of a week ago? No, I'm not. If you rewind this 2 months ago, it was going to be Ohio State, in my opinion. Credit to UCLA, put together, as Will Wade would say, a strong ass offer. And whenever we talk about money, that does not mean that I'm saying that this kid is just chasing the bag. He lives in Vero Beach, Florida, home of old Dodger Town. That's defunct now. That's not, they play out at Saddleback Ranch out in Arizona. But we were down there for the Southern Swing, Mark Gibler and myself. The proximity to the Atlantic is very close. So if he is a guy that wants to be near the water, UCLA isn't that bad. Now, Westwood is not on the water exactly. I mean, it's more like, being, I don't know. I don't know my LA County geography as well as I used to, but you're not on the water. You're not 5 minutes from the water. You're not 10 minutes from the water. But Columbus, your closest body of water is what? The Olentangy River, Buckeye Lake. Not necessarily going to be the cup of tea for somebody who is all about being on the water. And when we had a chance to talk to Champ, he didn't necessarily get into saying, oh, well, the beach is important, but he really kept talking up UCLA. And that was the moment that it was like, this is more than just a passing fancy. There seems to be something there. Now, remember, this is the same school that TJ Alford is coming out of as well. So it's not that Ohio State doesn't have ties into Vero Beach High School. We had the chance to talk with the coaching staff there, and there are some definite ties in terms of fandom with Ohio State. Ohio State's probably not going to give up here. Now, what is the most likely scenario? Is the most likely scenario that Champ signs with UCLA? Maybe. Is the next most likely scenario that he signs with somebody not named UCLA and not named Ohio State? Still quite possibly. And I think the least likely scenario at this point is that he signs with Ohio State. I think that is by far your bronze medalist and barely making the podium at this point. And you gotta wish the kids well. You can do whatever you want. I wouldn't be talking up the kid 6 weeks ago and then suddenly be like, oh, how dare you? You didn't go to Ohio State. How dare you? We're all shocked and aghast. It's recruiting. Things happen. And I think that we've seen such a wide net cast by Tyler Bowen that it's not the end of the world. We're not talking about Champ Smith at this moment. We're not talking a ton about Deron Parks. Deron Parks moved from West Virginia to the state of Florida. We didn't even get the opportunity to see him. And that was just more of a timing issue. It wasn't like we were like, well, this isn't going to happen, so let's just bag it. It just, sometimes you don't get to go and see certain kids. We didn't get to see Brock Boyd out at South Lake Carroll. I mean, schedules happen, but I don't think that Ohio State is necessarily in this critical oh bleep moment when it comes to where its offensive line recruiting is. It's already put together a pretty strong core of a class, and now you're just kind of filling out the ranks. And that doesn't mean that now you're just trying to fill it out with maybe lower ranked players. I mean, I think you're still swinging for the fences. You're still trying to get what you can get there. I mean, obviously, Clemson has maybe the best offensive line class currently. I'm sure USC's is probably pretty good. That's what happens when you have 49 recruits in your class. All right, maybe not 49, but a lot. So you're not necessarily going to freak out at this point. And I don't think that anybody should freak out. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to internet. If I were here to tell you how to internet, oh my God, cats and dogs would be getting along together. Life would be so much better if that were the case. But I'm a realist, and I know that I don't have that type of sway or influence. And if I did have that type of sway and influence, you would all be signing up for BuckeyeHuddle.com. Again, best website on the planet for your Ohio State coverage. Great team, great message board. The Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse Columbus. I just think that it is just I love spending time on that board. There's a lot of message boards just by nature. There's a lot of infighting and just dumb bleep that's going on. I think ours is pretty minimal in terms of the dumb bleep. Is there a little infighting? Yeah, sometimes brothers fight. I mean, I'm not saying this is Step Brothers. I mean, we'll have plenty of room for crafts and activities. I mean, it's going to happen. Everybody's very passionate. You don't belong to a website about a sports team and check your passion at the door. Now, we do ask for a little civility. Sometimes maybe it's not there, but I think that if I had the sway to be able to make things happen, Powerball ticket numbers for me that win. Everybody signing up for Buckeye Huddle and Sydney Sweeney. And if I can't get Sydney Sweeney because I'm like 1,000 years older than her, Aubrey Plaza. So if either of you are watching, call me. All right, what's next? Again, this is just, this is a show that is a test of new equipment. And let me know. I mean, obviously, I think the picture's a lot sharper. The lights, I might need to run a second light, but at some point, I'm just going to be carrying too much gear. It's just going to take 20 minutes to get set up. And I don't know if there's going to be a significant upgrade, but I'm going to be trying some new things. And, when we want to sit there and have our shows look as good as possible, obviously sound is important, lighting's important, all of that. And, that's something that, Tom Orr, Jeremy Birmingham, myself are really all kind of focusing on, is making sure that we have some uniformity in how the shows look. And additionally, that we're just giving you the best possible product. We're already giving you the best information. Now let's just make it look good. Now, of course, people will be like, yeah, well, you can make it look good by taking your face off of there, stupid. Well, I was just born with this face. I can't grow a super beard. If I could grow a super beard to just cover it up like, Teen Wolf, I would do it. But that's just not going to happen. What about the team up north? And we haven't necessarily had any real leaks. But there were a lot of puffed chests by some of their biggest supporters, athletic supporters, jockstraps, if you will. And after their meeting with the NC2A, and it's not like information is necessarily coming out from the NC2A, that doesn't stop stuff from leaking from the other side. There was some white knuckling from fans talking about how stupid the NC2A is. Yada, yada, yada. It makes you kind of wonder what is going to happen. Now, don't buy for a second. There were people out there that misrepresented the facts of the fact that there were going to be meetings June 6th and June 7th. The 7th, I don't know if it was necessarily absolutely going to be 2 days. If it was that second day was there as a, in case there's just more, Connor Stallion showed up. I'm sure he had a Dyson with him, maybe even a Hoover. He probably offered to work on some equipment over in the NC2A office, everything else. But don't get caught up in the fact that, oh, June 6th and June 7th is this giant line in the sand. No, that was a meeting. That was the meeting. That was the trial, if you will. That was that. That was not, this is not North Korea where you go up and it's judge, jury, and executioner all in about 5 minutes. This is not, this isn't a banana republic or anything, even though there are a lot of people who probably feel that the NC2A is a bit of a banana republic. I'll leave that to you on what your own personal feelings are. I still am not sure what my feelings are there, but Kevin, you've been covering sports, since the wheel was invented. Yeah, but it's hard to really get a gauge on where the NC2A is hamstrung and where the NC2A maybe runs into some incompetency. But now we wait. And there will be various levels of, the NC2A may come to some findings, and then Michigan will have a chance to rebut it. And then, we're not days away. Now we are a little less than 2 months away from Big Ten Media Days. Do I expect this to be adjudicated by that point? It sure would give us a lot to talk about in Las Vegas. It would be pretty cool if that were the case, but I'm not necessarily buying that we're even going to have it there. So is this done? Where's the line? Is the line where Michigan's reported self-imposed 2-game suspension, week 3 and week 4 of the season? Do we have real teeth between now and then? Now, the reality is the NC2A could have the dead body in the trunk and the smoking gun in the front seat and say, this is what's going on. And at some point, Michigan can say, okay, no bet. We're done for. We're going to go easy on us, even though this has been kicking and dragging and clawing and pissing and moaning all the way to the frickin' finish line. I don't think there's no time for good behavior that should be given with this, in my opinion. There is no reason that the NC2A should take leniency because Michigan has proven to be a good citizen during any of this. Michigan has blustered and puffed up its chest as much as it can and threatened lawsuit after lawsuit, and we're going to sue the Big Ten, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, only to wilt like a hothouse flower, to wilt like my bad hair on a humid day. They have not at any point shown that they want to get to the bottom of this, because they know what they did. There's no plausible deniability. Connor Stallions was not a lone agent acting on his own. Some overzealous kook who was flying in from Camp Pendleton in Southern California to Michigan and writing a manifesto and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, did it maybe start that way? Sure. As I heard in the great work of art called Mr. Brightside, it starts with a kiss. And this was the kiss that happened. And oh, wow, this kid seems to be really good at figuring out and deciphering what's going on. Michigan absolutely knew what was going on. They absolutely knew what was going on. So what do they do now? Do they delay? I really think that this 25 season needs to be punted if I'm them. I would be throwing myself at the mercy of the court and saying, all right, do what you will. We'll take whatever ban you got in 25, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let us get on with our lives. When Bryce Underwood is a second-year player, when certain things have been cycled through, when they're able to recruit with a little bit of a clearer picture for recruits to say, well, really, this is what's going to happen now that we've gotten through the worst of this. Now, of course, there's not an Ohio State fan around that doesn't want that championship taken off the board, that doesn't want the 3 games, or at least 2 of them in the game, to be at least listed as no contests because of transgressions that went on. And all of that is above my pay grade. And we don't really have a great measuring stick to know what type of teeth the NC2A has right now, because this is unlike anything that they've ever dealt with. This isn't a couple of grades getting changed by an overzealous professor to keep kids eligible. This isn't a sack full of $100 bills in a greasy McDonald's bag. This isn't any of that. And, this is very uncharted virgin forest that they're trying to go through. And I just don't, I don't think that we know what we know. And there are going to be a lot of people who are going to tell you they know. Don't think they know. I was covering Ohio State during Tat 5, and we didn't know what we didn't know. I mean, we certainly had some ideas of what we thought the penalties might be. Honestly, I thought they were more harsh than they really were going to be. You were selling your own gear, but by the letter of the law, you signed up for the NCAA and you kind of knew what was going on, and you can't plead ignorance. You can't plead ignorance when you're out there running a scheme, a multi-state scheme to electronically steal signs in advanced scouting, all things that are prohibited, that are in the rule book, and be like, well, we didn't know. Oh my God, I'm as shocked as anybody. Damn that Connor Stallions. We're gonna have a stern talking to that young man. Get the fuck out of here, is what I say to that. I mean, seriously. I was not born yesterday. Don't be like that. But I digress. That's going to be something fun to watch. Last point I'm going to make here on the Big Me Kickoff, and again, this is a special taped edition, June 7th, in the evening. I'm going to get this thing turned as quickly as I can, maybe head over to the bar, have a beer or two this evening. I don't need that. Certainly can't afford it. You want to tip me and super chat us, for a price of a beer, sure would appreciate it. I'm sure Google will take its 30% off the top. So, maybe I should get a short pour if that's going to be the case. But the House settlement has been agreed upon by the courts. What does this mean? I have no freaking idea, honestly. There's so many words. Even the release that came out yesterday was 7 pages long. It just should have said, we crossed the finish line. I mean, obviously there's going to be, this is going to handle how many scholarships there are in football. I think it's going to be 105. You don't have to fund 105. I think you're going to see teams somewhere between 85 and 90. I read from, I think it was Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, a $20.5 million salary cap or whatever in terms of what this is, in terms of funding through the school. But that's not just for football. That's for sports in general. So the co-ed ultimate Frisbee team probably isn't going to see any of this NIL money. Hell, I think at a lot of schools, the basketball teams are going to be hard pressed to see the money. So how are you going to figure this out? That's all going to be there. I want to get on a show this next week with Tony. I was again out running some errands today, so I didn't have a chance to read it, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the biggest going ons Friday night, like late-ish night news dump. A lot of times, that news dump happens a little bit after 6:30. All the Eastern newscasts have, gone on the air, come off the air, at least until the 10 or the 11. You're able to kind of, put a little bit of oxygen into the discussion. I think this came out 9-10 p.m. I don't even remember. I remember seeing it and being like, well, that's something. This would be the day for any other news dump to happen, because it's going to be dwarfed by this, this House settlement situation. But it'll be interesting. Now, Ohio State, according to our Tony Gerdeman, and this shouldn't come as a surprise, already had a plan in play. Needed to kind of see the who's, the wins, the hows, or whatever, just to plug in the data points. But they already, everybody knew this was coming. Everybody knew this was going to get signed off on, whether it was like 100% of the way that they expected to see it or 96%. They knew. So there's not necessarily going to be a ton of like, oh my God, this is not what we were expecting. Back to the drawing board. Somebody brew a fresh pot of coffee. We're going to have to figure this out. Nobody's leaving this office until we get some solutions. Now, I think we're going to see over the first year, once this all happens, I think we're going to see some foibles. I think we're going to see some schools screw it up. I think we're also going to see some teams or some programs maybe push the envelope out of the spirit of fair play. I think you pass this type of legislation to keep from having a ton of lawsuits, but you know what is going to force a lot of lawsuits? A bunch of lawyers who want to get paid. So I think that this is still going to be a bumpy road, but there's going to be a lot to check out. Check out Tony Gerdeman's piece over at buckeyehuddle.com on what does this all mean. We will certainly have some shows. Again, I did not have a chance to really do an hour or two of reading before this show. A lot of times I'd like to come into, especially the taped shows, because I don't have any cover. I don't have Mika Hanna asking me about a random kid that I maybe have heard of and maybe have not. I don't have Wingman Ted. I don't have Doreen, Asian Posh Doreen. I don't have Ryan Dawes. I don't have Jordan Kapler. And if I don't name you, doesn't mean I don't love you. I could sit there and go 20 minutes naming names of all of our regulars. And and we have people that show up really only during the season. Steve Buckholt, some guys like that. It's a very weird nature of how when people show up to shows, and especially what the content is and everything else. This show, I think people are just going to have to find, because there was no advertisement for it. There's no plan for it. So I'm going to have to, when I'm done with this, get it turned around and get it up onto social media. But this upcoming week is going to be a busy week for us. 3 or 4 days of camps, a 7-on-7, all of that going on. I think, it's maybe we don't have one on Friday. Maybe it's 3 days of camps and a 7-on-7. I'll have to check. I'm just assuming I'm going to be on campus every day. And even with that, I know I have like a lunch on Friday with a couple of subscribers to Buckeye Huddle. So I'm looking forward to that. I better check my phone. I know where we're going. No, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to sit there and turn a party of 3 into a party of 30. But obviously, I love spending time with our subscribers. So if you ever want to reach out to me at kevin@buckeyegrove.com with any thoughts, ideas, whatever you may have, let me know. We want to do some more maybe pre-games, and by pre-games, I mean Friday night, go out and get a pop or something, especially for big games when teams are coming in prior to Texas, what have you. I think all of that would be great. This is so much about community, and Buckeye Nation and its community are second to none. Of course, I'm very biased, extremely biased, but there you have it. Outside of that, I think we kind of have covered it. Again, this is an impromptu show, mostly for testing equipment. Good Lord willing, it all worked. I would really hate it if I sat there and talked for however long that I did. Let me put my glasses on because I can't see the screen. Talk for 22 minutes and nothing recorded. But I guess we'll find out here. I mean, I'm not even hearing myself in my AirPods, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But once again, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit the thumbs up, hit that bell. All that helps us if you're watching or if you're listening to us on a regular podcasting platform. Write us a 5-star review. That helps us with our distribution. And, of course, check us out at buckeyehuddle.com. Now is the time to get on board. Now is the time. No, but, Kevin, the season is not until, fall camp doesn't start until the very end of July. No better time than now to get on board, start getting acclimated with how things work over there and start getting your questions in. So do it. Do it. But until then, until Monday, I plan on doing a show on Monday, I think. So until then, have a great day. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you very soon.